Hello and welcome to Beach Hour, and today with me I have the brand new 2021 Jeep Compass. 1 minute. I think new grille, new front end. Sorry guys, I think this is the new Jeep Compass. I'm really sorry, I think I'm a little tired right now. So I'm gonna catch you tomorrow morning with the actual 2021 Jeep Compass. Good morning. Now that I've woken up fresh, I've got my first cup of coffee as well, and my brain is rewired. Let's talk about this, the 2021 Jeep Compass. Now, as I was talking to you about yesterday, the front of this car has been redesigned quite a lot. The rear stays more or less the same. There's a little change in the way the tail light looks, but the major redesign from the outside, although it's not a major redesign, but whatever the facelift brings to this car is at the front end, where you will find a completely new color and design for the 7-slat grille. There's a new air dam which now sits below the grille and above the bumper. The bumpers are also redesigned. Also, the new addition that this car gets are the LED headlights and also the LED daytime running lights, which sort of make an eyebrow on top of the headlight. And I think overall this car with this new design looks good and updated. Although in my opinion the original Compass that came out in 2017 also had a great design. We used to call it the mini Grand Cherokee, and I think it's a good thing that Jeep didn't tamper around too much with the design and it just updated it to look a little bit more modern and a little bit more relevant for 2021. Now, over the last few days, since I put out a little bit about the Compass on my Instagram stories and I asked people what they want to know about it, they've asked me questions which, sort of like put this car in a very vulnerable spot, because mentally at that point for me it was a little difficult to justify this car, because it sort of sits in a very peculiar spot, especially when you consider its pricing. The earlier Jeep Compass was the car that actually spearheaded this very segment that it now in today's date kind of finds itself a little difficult to justify, because in the last 3 or 4 years a lot has changed, where we have seen new cars from Kia in the Seltos. We've got the XUV 500, Tata has come out with the Harrier, and we also have the MG Gloucester. But I am here today to tell you that the Jeep Compass, even in today with the kind of pricing and the kind of features it commands, it still does have a lot of relevance at the price point and at the segment where it sits. And that's what I'm going to be telling you about in this video. Now, the first thing that you realize when you start driving the Compass is that this is not a very quiet engine. This in here is the 2-liter multi-jet engine, which is derived from Fiat Chrysler. This engine is the same engine which was in the last generation car as well, although it's got a little bit more power. Now it puts out close to 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque. The steering also in the Jeep Compass is actually quite nice. It's very well weighted, where in the city it will give you enough maneuverability to be light and to be turning around easily. But when you're out on the highway, the steering sort of puts on weight and it becomes slightly more heavy. And what that does is it keeps the steering very relevant and very precise, no matter what speed and what road conditions you are on. And that, I think, is really something to look out for in this car, because that kind of makes or breaks a car's experience. And I think in that way the Compass's steering kind of does a lot of justice to how this car overall is set up. And I'm going to come to you more about that, because this car has got some incredible highway mannerisms, where it is by far, I think, at least in its category, it is one of the best handling cars out there. This car that I'm driving is the Model S, which is currently the top of the range variant, where it comes with a 4x4 as well as this automatic gearbox. And for me, the problem with this car is not at all, of course, the 4x4, which is technically not a 4x4, it's more of an all-wheel drive system. But my problem with this car is the automatic 9-speed gearbox, because it is kind of slow, first of all, to change gears, and second, it's got a mind of its own where it suddenly thinks that you are a person who's a normal person, and then suddenly it decides that no, you are not a normal person, you are some race car driver. And it also thinks that you are driving on a normal highway road, and then it suddenly thinks ki, oh no, you are at Monza. So what that does is it basically just downshifts a couple of gears, and it goes from going normally to suddenly being like "Argh!" It's a little bit weird, and that gearbox is kind of odd in the way it operates. And when you're doing off-road in this car, the Jeep Compass kind of is one of those vehicles which doesn't have class-leading ground clearance, but at the same time it does offer you a lot of confidence when you're going over these kind of terrain and these kind of trails where you find yourself pushing a little harder, because you know this car has got that extra 350 Newton meters of torque, and that 350 Newton meters of torque kind of puts the car in such a spot that it is easily able to go over most of the terrain, and even at steep inclines and where the terrain or where the surface is not very grippy, it's not offering too much of grip, the Compass over there as well has no problem crawling over most of the surfaces. The 4x4 system in it, as I mentioned earlier, is more of an all-wheel drive system where it primarily powers the front wheels and then sends power to the rear wheels whenever it is required. This car also comes with this Smart Select terrain system. It's kind of similar to the system which comes in the Range Rover Discovery and the Range Rover Evoque, where it's an automatic system which is based on traction control, and it kind of understands, or it kind of senses the kind of traction you're getting on all four wheels, and it'll automatically switch from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive mode whenever it's needed, whenever it thinks it's necessary to give you that sort of traction. So you, as a person sitting over here on the inside, don't need to do much. It kind of understands and it kind of deploys power on all four wheels. Apart from that, you also have four-wheel drive low mode, you have a four-wheel drive lock as well when you want the four-wheel drive to be permanently on and you think that the system is not doing what it's supposed to do, although I don't think there are many instances where that would be a problem. But the main thing about this car that I want to talk about is the interior. The minute you step in, you'll realize that this cabin is a complete blacked out cabin, so you get a lot of sportiness in the way this interior looks, where you've got leather most of the places on the dashboard, on the door handles and the door cars. The seats are also made of this very nice quality leather. The controls on the steering wheel are also new, and you look in front and you will find a completely new digital driver's display as well, which comes with a very cool animation also, I must say. Over here on the central console also, you will find everything that's been redesigned and everything is new, with the highlight being this central 10.1-inch infotainment system. It also is the place where you will control the ventilated seats. Yes, the Compass now has ventilated seats for the driver as well as the passenger. Underneath over here also you'll find a completely redesigned climate control system, as well as a gear selector and a terrain response system also, where the earlier round dial for the terrain response system is now gone. Instead, you get this new nifty little button which kind of looks like the gear selector that's on the 992 generation Porsche, although different shape, different size, but kind of the same. You also have a nice little cup holder area over here where you can keep your diabetes whenever you're drinking cold food. Also, the new design for the air conditioning vents is very nice. It looks sleek and it sort of sits so nice and flush with the rest of the interiors. And you also get a completely new, I think it's a 6 speaker in the mid variants, and the top variants it's a 9 speaker Alpine system, which by the way sounds incredibly good. Over here on the inside, you find yourself in a completely different car than the previous generation Jeep Compass, and that too in a very good way, where this car now, you know, where the earlier Compass sort of felt a little sparse, it felt a little Spartan on the inside, this car completely overhauls that feeling, where you get a very nice, a very plush and a very well laid out and a very feature rich interior back over here inside the cabin. Also, by the way, you get a wireless charging mat over here in the central console, and you get seats which have memory settings. So you have two different settings for the memory of the seats. And that also means that these seats also are now electronically adjustable. They are 7-way adjustable seats electronically for both the driver and the passenger. Not all is well though, because yesterday when coming back from Bombay, I was actually sitting behind in the rear seats, and there is one particular thing that I noticed back here. Now, although there is enough space for me to sit over here, there's plenty of legroom. This seat is currently in my position, which is at 5'8". I still have a decent amount of legroom back over here, and I have enough headroom as well to keep myself easily comfortable, so that's not a problem. Although for the problem that was there for me was that this is the only set of air vents for the air conditioning that you get back here. And considering the overall size and the overall enormity of this rear cabin, I think that's a little less in terms of cooling the entire place down, because I was constantly needing to tell the driver to, you know, bring the temperature in the cabin a little lower. So I think that is definitely a slight bit of a problem for me. Otherwise, legroom great, headroom great, because of this big sunroof on top, large glass areas, so it feels nice and airy back over here as well. It's got a nice speaker system over here at the back as well. As I said, this car has an Alpine steering system, which is got about some 8 or 9 speakers throughout the car, and the speaker system is good over here at the back as well. You get good quality, very nice and rich bassy sound, no problems over there. It's also got a USB down here as well, so even if you want to charge your mobile phone or your other electronic devices, that also isn't a problem. The only gripe I had with the rear passenger seats is the AC ventilation. I really think they should have at least given, you know, a second option for ventilation, where probably, you know, put like a vent in the pillars or something like that to, you know, bring a little bit more air over here at the back. But I get a feeling that the upgrades that Jeep has brought in to the interiors of the new Compass, they are more for justifying this car's price and this car's positioning in the market, because everything else, especially cars like the Kia Seltos, all of them offer features that are very similar to the Jeep Compass at a much lesser price point. But that said, I am going to tell you a few reasons why this car is still relevant in 2021, despite these new additions and these new features which make it relevant. But apart from that, this car has a lot of reasons to exist in this segment, and I think you should definitely consider buying this car over the rest, because there are lots of things that you need to know. Now, first things first, that this is a Jeep, and when you say it's a Jeep, that means that it comes associated with a heritage, it gets associated with a legacy, and that in itself demands a certain amount of premium over the other brands, because the other brands, while like the Kia and the Hyundais, they, you know, sort of feel more of urban city cruiser kind of cars. The Jeep Compass sort of gives the person or the driver, whoever's sitting in it, you get that sort of vibe that this guy is an explorer. This guy is the guy who's looking out for adventure. He goes to places on the weekend, he takes his cars, goes off-road, does rugged things, and is more into exploring the outdoors. Again, it is dependent on person to person, so you really can't say, but that is the kind of outlook you get when you see a Jeep. And that itself, I think, is one thing where you definitely have a little bit command over the premium. Now, the second thing that I love about this car is this engine. This over here is the 2-liter multi-jet diesel engine, which puts out about 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque, which puts it in a league which is completely above the rest of the Kias and the Hyundais. That said, although this is the same 2-liter diesel engine that also gets shared with the Tata Harrier and the MG Hector, so in a way, I think Fiat Chrysler Group have kind of seen their own foot, put a shotgun to it, and went boom, kind of shot themselves in the foot there, where they have offered that same incredibly good powertrain to their competitors in the same segment. But that's where the third advantage of the Compass plays in, which is its ride and handling. This car rides and handles incredibly good on the highways. It might feel a little stiff when you're just starting off at very low speeds, but it quickly changes all of that. And as soon as you build up speed, the suspension sort of get into their own, and this kind of give you a more plusher ride quality, and the ride quality keeps on getting better as you build up speed, no matter if you're on bad roads or if you're on good highway roads. And also the Compass has an incredible highway hold where it feels so nice and it feels so sturdy when you're driving this car on the highway that I have my doubts if any other car in this segment will give you that sort of confidence when you're driving out on the highway, that sort of handling, that sort of high speed stability that this car brings, because there is absolutely no body roll when you're on the highway and taking turns at high speeds. It's absolutely incredible. I am pretty sure, I can bet on that no other car has this sort of highway mannerisms. And I say all this because I have experienced what the Compass can do firsthand. Because back in 2018, when the first generation Compass came out, we had actually taken one car out for a 13-day adventure into Gujarat, where we took the car through the Gir National Park. I mean, we didn't go inside the Gir National Park because we were not allowed, but we went all the way till Gir National Park. We went to a couple of other places in Gujarat, and one of the highlighting parts of our trip was when we took the Compass on the small run of Kutch. And that time, with 4 people in the car, with the car completely loaded with luggage, we actually managed to do 160 kilometers per hour in this car at complete ease on that desert surface, on that complete rocky and solid desert surface. And the car was so planted and the car was so stable that it gave me that exciting feel, while at the same time keeping my confidence all the way high that okay, nothing is going to go wrong with what we are doing. And last but not the least, the Compass comes with a good safety rating, where this car has a 4-star safety rating, which in the end is way higher than all the Kias and the Hyundais in this world. And I would say in a certain way that the Compass, like a lot of people on my channel or on my Instagram were asking me, oh, should I buy this car or should I buy the Kia Seltos, and how do you compare both these cars? So I say, first of all, I don't consider the Compass and the Seltos in the same category. I think that the Compass is a little bit higher, it's a segment higher in a certain way. The only car that I think would be kind of in the segment of competition with this car is the Harrier. But then again, the Harrier also has nothing against this car. I mean, I like Tata, I like their products, especially their new products, because they're amazing. But then again, I think that they have nothing when it comes to the Compass, because in terms of what this car offers is completely again a segment above. Like for example, I don't know much about the Harrier as of now, I'll put my research into it, but just from the small things like that I know, like for example, this car comes with disc brakes on all 4 ends. The Harrier comes with disc brakes only at the front. At the rear you get drum brakes. For such a big car, kind of odd. What I want to say in the end of things that this new Jeep Compass is the update that we've been waiting for a really long time, and it kind of brings this car into a segment of its own where you really can't compare this car with anything else. Every other car has got something or the other missing, where they have to compromise on either of the safety or the build quality or the road handling and dynamics. Something or the other they have to compromise to kind of fit themselves into a certain price point. The Compass doesn't do that. The Compass stays at what it is and it stays true to its nature, and for that reason you would probably find the Compass slightly more premiumly priced and slightly in a higher price segment than the rest of the cars. But rest assured, for what all you're getting over here and offer, and for what this car gives when it is driving on the road, it absolutely makes sense. I hope you liked this video. This is B Chow, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Till then, ciao.